Boom! Hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Byron Rodgers. This podcast is dedicated to the executive protection practitioner, the private security professional. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the mental, emotional, psychological, physiological fitness that goes into being an efficient and effective executive protection agent. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a mom that's looking at how to protect her children, or a father that's focused on how to protect his family, I believe this podcast has something for all of you. We might even get into some tales from the crypts of true Hollywood stories from time to time. I'm doing this podcast because I feel the reality of this job is simple. If you really want to be good at executive protection, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. And those of you who've been in the game for any serious amount of time, you already know what I'm saying is true. So if that sounds interesting to you, enjoy the show. Out. Boom! What's up, guys? Hey, Byron Rodgers here, and Yousef Badou of Emergence. And really, I was invited to one of your seminars a while back, and I really fell in love with what you were teaching, man. I, especially coming from a military, like shock troop kind of background, which because you're a Marine as well. For me, and really kind of fusing that with executive protection, I had to go through like all these different phases of really kind of adjusting from being a warrior to being like a consummate gentleman and a guardian, and I think for me that was kind of like the biggest like friction point of like getting into my career. Now people are hopping on. Once everyone hops on, I'll have you we'll really do the introduction, but
give them some time to get on.
Yeah, give everyone some time to get on there and say what's up to some folks. I'm pulling you guys up back here so we can see everything. I wonder what'll happen.
Oh, cool. No. I've been on that. This is my second one I've ever done.
Ah, okay.
Had a blast on the other one. The other one was the Bolo podcast.
The Bolo podcast.
Yeah, with Cameron.
Okay.
And it was really great.
I gotta start off.
Super nervous.
Yeah.
Never done one before.
Yeah.
Everyone sees the comfortable me, you know, up in front of people, but you put one single camera phone in my face and I lose my mind.
Really, bro?
I don't know what it is. Everyone's got their kryptonite.
They got their thing. That's funny because for me, like, I can do podcasts all day. Like, I'm in my car making videos all the time. So I'm ultra inoculated to like the digital. There we are in the background. We're kind of famous.
Oh, cool.
Kind of the digital stuff. So, in fact, it might even make more sense for me to just move this over here. That way you can see the comments or whatever. But so I'm like ultra inoculated to the digital world, and then now I'm having to go and do like kind of teach stuff and I do some motivational speaking, but my nerves are way more like jammed up, and I'm like, all right, I gotta go get up on this.
You gotta use that, man. Use that energy. That's
catapult, yeah.
That's I'm that guy. Everyone sees the comfortable me up there, but if you ask me, I'll tell you my secret is, I feel like throwing up every time. The first 5 minutes when I'm staring at the crowd, going, oh, geez, what the hell am I doing here? And then you get stuck in that cycle. You're like, they're all gonna know. They're all gonna find out.
I'm scared.
And my big thing is just start talking.
Yeah.
I don't know, I've been doing it over a decade now, and it still happens. Yeah. And what I learned is just power through it, and just start talking.
Yeah.
And it might come out a little funny for the first couple of minutes, but by the end of the day, you hit your stride and you get in the zone.
And you're in the zone. That's awesome because you were totally like, boom, you're killing it. And I was just like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Glad it looked good.
No, you did, man. You're a murderer. And I was like, and this is like one of the smartest Marines I've seen.
All of a sudden. Come on now.
I love it, man. Representing for us, man. Yeah. So, I think folks are hopping on here. We got about 4 more minutes to kind of mess around. But, just kind of still on that topic. Like, for me, that transition from, grunt infantry into private sector, there were a number of different friction points, like going from being like a combatant to being like in a service related industry and being like, you're taking orders from silly villains now. You're maybe one of the most important things you do is put the stroller in right. Put the car seat in right, So And then also learning that my tools from the warfare that I'm now involved in, that's just what I just like to call it, I'm a warrior, everything warfare, you know. But they're different.
Yeah.
You know, it's so different. And how can I translate those tools from, you know, what I was doing in the military to now to be effective? Because I mean, the goal is to be effective in whatever battle we're fighting, you know. And that's what I found to be so like awesome about what you're doing, because it's something that I've been doing in my mind and kind of carrying over, you know, a lot of the skills that kept me alive in country. You know, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're hyper vigilant. No, you're, you know, trying to tell me I'm broken." I'm like, guys, like, I think this stuff makes me more functional.
Yeah. And knowing what to look for, and, especially I dealt with the same thing. Luckily, I transitioned into a contractor, working on base. So they literally did my hail and mail on a Friday, and I came back Monday with a polo shirt on, with like a beard out to here. I grew over the weekend.
Heck yeah!
But so I did have that buffer for me, so it wasn't as bad. But getting into business over the past year, doing what I have been doing, I've definitely learned. Because you're also visiting and touching other communities. So not only the high-speed executive protection side and the military and law enforcement, that's going good to go. That's my tribe. I can talk to those people. But it's like, I remember the first time I got picked to go to a church.
Yeah. That's happening more and more now.
Yeah.
It's blowing up.
And big infantry, grunt, Marine, cussing every other word.
Yeah.
And now I'm in front of 70 people, church-going good people.
Good, salt of the earth people.
Dropping F-bombs, see what happens. You know? Yeah. So I'm always in front of war fighters, but you get in front of a church, it's like, wow, you gotta change the messaging. Not only the messaging, not only the verbiage of how I'm using it, you know, and I'm not talking about slaying bodies or whatever, but also the message on it, you know, coming from the military, we're very, you know, we have a bias for action, we're going to get up there and do stuff.
Default aggressive,
violence of action. So I've been pushing that stuff for over a decade, and it's like, can you really, I mean, there are, for example, law enforcement. Is there a place for violence of action in law enforcement? Hell yeah, there is, of course, you know, establishing a situation. But I can't lead off with, like, I'm going to turn you into a bunch of hunter killers. Get them off the stage. What would happen if I did that in the EP community? They'd be like, get this guy gone.
This is not it. I mean, I was talking to a buddy on the way here, and he's working for one of the, you know, huge companies up in Silicon Valley, and he's just like, we can't use this vendor because, you know, the vendor has like combative name to his private security company, so like gunslinger or something.
Right there,
like
you're done. You just got done.
Anything like that, you know. That's why I named my company Bravo Research Group. Yep. What is that?
Exactly.
Like, what is that? You know that, and I thought that apparently that was a good move. You know,
it was.
Because the world's changing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you got to really look at, you know, who you're trying to target. That's another thing I've been dealing with is, you know, the old message is targeting the hardcore person, you know, hold them by the nose and kick them in the ass kind of thing. But it's like, that's not what most people are about, or that's not how you have to approach. The concepts still stay the same, whether it's military or civilian. You know, I want them to learn these concepts, but how you present it, you know, I spent about a year figuring that out. How do I present this in an impactful manner, but I'm not going to scare anyone, or give someone something that they don't need to be using. You know, like I'm not going to tell a normal person to go out there and capture people, you know. You know, it's like, no, you got to.
No, that's being responsible with your stuff and evolving, you know, with the game. And I quake for the good guys I know in the industry that won't evolve with the times, you know. And I honor, you know, where we come from in those older times too, man. It does break my heart though when I see like vets and good dudes lose in more corporate environments because they're not able to set down the glory days and going ahead and get into like now.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like,
100%, man.
You know, and that's why kind of my bend is social dynamics, like the social dynamics of executive protection. The book I'm writing, like all that stuff is because I've seen high-speed guys. I've seen guys that are more qualified than me. I've seen guys that can protect better than me, just quite frankly lose because their ability to adapt to the social environment, all the interpersonal relationships, the social ecosystem they've been dropped into is just too predatorial for them, and they don't realize it. You know,
not compatible.
Man.
I mean, you can tell that story how many times when I try to tell the people that I'm around. You know, for example, I remember working with one guy and he got put on with me on a couple projects, and this guy's background was just
amazing,
rock,
stellar.
You know, Leonidas.
Yeah.
I won't go into his background, but it was very legit. You know, he was this guy was a meat eater. You know, and he got put into a position to where we're working on projects, and that's great on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And this guy was a square peg in a round hole. He did not fit. He ended up, you know, launching. Good dude. He wasn't. He was even a good guy, but he was so hardcore. It's like, dude, we're not doing that here, man. We're not, you know. That's another world.
Yeah, and it actually becomes counterproductive for the organization that they're dropped into. It actually becomes like corrosive, you know, inside that organization. And then it's like, it like ups the stress level, and then like it just adds more friction altogether. And so that's, I mean, you know, flexibility is strength, man. So there's a
when you do see the guys that do make that transition, talking about being flexible, being a strength, when they do go, you know what, I'm not in the brunch, I'm not in the gear anymore, I need to adapt. Those guys are rock stars. Those guys are stellar.
They have what I want to make a podcast about this, but they have what I call a quiet storm. You know what I mean? Because it's in there, you know, it's in there, but they're the most humble, down to earth. They understand their power, you know, and you know they're the guys that have that quiet storm. If they need to flip switches, they can, you know. But it's the most appropriate switch, and that's where the longevity comes from. I think, you know, it's like, just don't be what you don't need to be when you don't need to be it, man. you know,
good way to wrap it up.
Yeah. So we're. Just, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. I'm Byron Rodgers. This is Executive Protection Lifestyle, and we're doing a live podcast taping. Me and Yousef Badou here of Emergence. We're going to go ahead and run through some content, and then afterwards, if you guys want, hop on, ask some questions, and get after it. But, you know, without any further ado, Yousef, he's a gentleman. He's an instructor that I... this instructor thing's awesome because I'm the same way. I'll let him speak for himself in a second here and fix everything that I mess up. But my experience was, we went on ahead and we had a course on pre-threat indicators and predicting people, you know, after 10 years in the executive protection industry, this is what we do. You know, I'm still relatively young in the industry. I'm not saying that for you guys to think I'm like in the game, but you know, with that little bit of experience, it's like, man, this is all I do all day. Not all, but like, this is when I'm actually on a detail and I'm moving. That's what I'm doing. You know, I'm looking at proxemics. I'm looking at body language. I'm reading people. I'm trying to look like I'm not reading people. I'm reading people. You know, like, and this is like what we're doing around the field all the time. So I found it to be extremely, extremely valuable, and I'm honored that you take some of your time to hang out and, you know, kick it with another jarhead. So introduce yourself. Let them know all the things. I know you're doing a lot of stuff right now, so, you know, let them know what you're into, brother.
All right. Like I said, my name is Yousef Badou. Some of you probably seen me around in a couple of your areas, especially if you've been in California. I've been hitting California pretty hard, in the Southwest anyway. Byron was awesome enough to invite me on this podcast, and I jumped at the chance because these kind of venues are fantastic. A lot of times when I teach people, you know, it's pretty intense and pretty dynamic. So I go, hey, any questions? And everyone's blank. You know, they're just, you know,
it's different type of information.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love questions. I love jamming it up. So putting it into a format, Facebook Live or the podcast where we can handle those is great. A little bit about my background. If you haven't been on my page or haven't seen me. I spent 10 years as a Marine, a little over 10 years as a Marine. Did a bunch of tours over there. I'm originally from Kuwait. People are probably wondering about my name. You know, I like to start off like show my courses with yes, I am an Arab. It's okay. We'll get through this.
It's good.
It'll be okay. But I spent 10 years in the infantry. Did a lot of tours over there to Iraq. I do speak Arabic, if you were wondering. So y'all can do the math on that. You know, Arabic-speaking infantrymen in Iraq, they
man.
You know, more than face off,
You know, more than just you know, the commands. We'll just leave it at that.
Not every cuss word. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so I grew up in Kuwait, moved to America about summer of 1998, so went into the Marine Corps from there. And then, funny story, I actually got out in 2006. I don't think I told you this, but got out in 2006 after all my tours, moved up to Huntington Beach, was working for Ford, and my wife calls me one day freaking out because she got something in the mail. I'm going, what is it?
No. Did you get it? Yes.
This is about a year and a half later.
Okay.
She's freaking out, and I'm trying to calm her down. I'm like, hey, it's just a muster sheet. You know, if you don't know, muster sheets, when you get out, they send it to you like once a year to put your name on it and address.
Yeah.
If they even do that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
If they can find you.
Yeah, if they can. Yeah. So that's what she had. And I'm trying to calm her down. She's like, oh, okay. We have a laugh over it, and I'm like, it's just a muster sheet. She's like, oh man, I feel stupid. I mean, this woman was with me for 3 tours, 3 pretty heavy combat.
She's been through it.
She's been through the ringer.
Earned her keep.
Yeah, so she was worried that whatever, and we have a laugh over it, you know. Fast forward like 3 months later, I'm at work, and she calls me, there's something in the mail. The Marine Corps sent something. She's freaking out. I'm like, you know, babe, chill out. It's a muster sheet.
Oh, no.
And she's telling me, no, it's different. It's bigger. You know, and I'm trying to calm her down. And she, you know, I don't know, can I cuss on here? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, but she's just like, there's an effing plane ticket in it.
No, there's actually a
oh, what? Yeah, and I told my boss, I'm like, oh, Craig, I got to go home. Marine Corps just sent me a ticket. So sure enough, there it was. They stuck a FedEx in my door. Involuntary recall.
Staring you right in the eyes. The package.
Get your butt back to mobilization command in Missouri. Had to fly to Missouri and all this stuff. So, yeah.
That's real.
Yeah. It was funny. We got there and we were the second class, I think, and it was 300 of us, and they're all grunts.
Yeah.
All grunts from my generation. We all did 3 tours.
Okay.
Whole bunch of grunts getting recalled.
Salty.
And the guys there, the Marines there, you know, God bless them, they had a tough job to do.
Yeah.
They all thought we were going to get there and just freak out. It was like an abandoned Air Force base in the middle of
like
nowhere.
in the middle of nowhere. Like they can burn the base down.
Break it all down. And they thought we were a bunch of, you know, pissed off grunts that were going to freak out. And like we got there and everyone's like, yeah, no, we're good. I'll go on into the deployment. Like, I hate civilian life. Everyone was happy. And everyone's like, oh.
Like, we get to get out of here?
No issues,
That's awesome.
I need the money. I'll do another deployment.
Okay,
no problem.
That's what's up. That's a wild dynamic, man. I hadn't even thinking about that.
So anyway, that led to me getting, instead of going on the 4th deployment, I got picked up for a small program called Combat Hunter. Some of you probably heard of it, some of you haven't, but it's a small program that pretty much teaches what we're going to go into today with the behavior profiling, the situational awareness. It's a program developed back in about 2000, because of an incident 2004, 2005 with the Juba sniper. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. You've been to the class, so definitely heard of him. But we had someone out there that was slinking off in the civilian population, so we needed a tool to be able to analyze and profile, you know, behavior, not based off indicators like a uniform, because our enemy wasn't wearing a uniform. No. They'd take single well-aimed shots and slink off into the civilian population. So we needed to raise the efficiency of that combat Marine on the ground and also raise their survivability. Well, how the hell do you do that? Well, General Mattis at the time, was the CG, he said, you know what, screw that, you know, Marines are not hunted, we are the hunters. So we started this program to start learning everything and anything you could about situational awareness, observing behavior and observing situations around you and making better decisions. So not only observing danger beforehand, left of bang, but also getting that better information and making speedier, better decisions. So that's where I always saw the disconnect with my training, is like I train the heck out of someone how to be that observer, that profiler, but when it comes down to that dynamic situation happens, that's where I see the biggest gap is from observing. Everybody observes the anomalies and whatnot, but to actually act and do something appropriate. Appropriate for the situation. That's where I have the biggest disconnect. So that's what I like to focus on.
Yeah, no worries. We're just gonna move this closer because some folks are saying they can't quite hear us. Okay. A little more intimate.
Okay. I'll put my Marine voice on. That's okay.
A little command voice on there.
I'll break this phone, you know.
Okay, cool.
Everyone always tries to hand me a mic when I do my seminars. I'm like, oh, get that away from me. You know,
yeah, right. A dang on Marine, man.
I have blood coming out of my throat here in a second.
That's what's up. So you went Marine Corps, and then did you do anything in between the Marine Corps? Well, so you're still Marine Corps combat hunter?
No, so I sort of left it off there. So I spent Total 10 years at Combat Hunter, training Marines.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. I spent 5 there as a Marine, half the time as a Marine, and the rest of it as a contractor. There were so few of us certified to teach it.
Yeah.
Come Friday, or come, at the end of my term, I was going to leave and get out of the Marine Corps. And they said, hey, you want a job? And I did my hail and bail on a Friday, we drank beer, got a plaque, and I came back to the exact same place on Monday with a polo shirt on.
As a civilian.
Grew a big beard over the weekend, all Bin Laden.
Heck yeah. Just because you can.
Just because I could.
Right? The cami shorts.
Yeah. So I did that. Total 10 years at the program, trained over 4,000 or 5,000 Marines. Not only Marines, it's obviously mainly Marines, but we had every other service, Air Force, letter agencies, Border Patrol, law enforcement. So I stopped counting at 4,000 or 5,000.
Yeah.
So I did that, and that brings us up to about last year, where I decided, I'd been there 10 years. I'd done everything at the program. I loved it. I loved training Marines, but with the world in a state of flux the way it is nowadays, I'm like, man, more people need this.
Yeah.
We were only, at the low end, we were only running 6 courses a year, not getting a lot of throughput. I'm like, no, this needs to be out there, way out there with the active shooter situations. With, people are scared. So if I can come in and give you a message or give you a piece of content that takes that fear down and builds up confidence, that's a good day in my book. It's for the EP community, law enforcement, military, mom and pop. I'm here to make people more aware. I think everyone should have this.
Yeah, 100%. It's because then you can make better decisions just all the way around. With executive protection, we all know, situational planning is your first move, but situational awareness is where it's at. That's your next line of defense. And then having that intelligent situational awareness and taking up good real estate and knowing what to look for in people and knowing how to read people and paying attention to what their limbic system's doing. And that type of trash gives you an edge. And what's information do? It gives you more intellectual options. People get frustrated when they don't have they go to emotion when they don't have intellectual options. So in terms of the spectrum of tools that we can have as practitioners in the field, and the options and the things that can stop us before we get to vapor lock and you end up like one of these guys we're seeing on social media, slugging it out with someone on the sidewalk.
You're wrong.
We all make mistakes.
You're wrong.
You're wrong, man.
You're always wrong, man.
We all make mistakes, but you're wrong. Yeah, exactly. Much love, bro. But we can have some more options that can do that left of bang term. It's genius. Yeah. That's the stuff, I really respect that. I appreciate that.
We talk about left to bang. So for everybody who doesn't, maybe not have heard of left to bang, it's a relatively new term, but that's one of the big tenets of some of the stuff I teach is being left to bang or walking around in a left to bang mindset. So you're not going to, learn Jedi mind tricks when you get this training, but we build a mindset with it. Yeah. So the content, the information, if you were loading a gun, the bullet would be the information. Okay, The gun is the mindset. How do you properly utilize that? It's great to have this information. And left to bang is it just says that in an incident timeline, where if you have bang right there in the middle, bang is your bad incident. That's one thing you want to avoid. You're mugging, you're shooting, bombing, ambushing,
pie in the face,
squirted with water in the face. The one thing you want to avoid, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. And you take that and you think about everything after the fact or right of bang, everything that happens after bang. And you're a bad guy, your criminal might be trying to egress out of the area. There's good guy actions that happen. We might have to call an ambulance or secure the area, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of indicators. There's a lot of things happening after bang.
Yeah.
And we've trained for a long time to how to respond to those, and you need to do that. You need to understand how to respond for your clientele and whatnot. And we've been doing that for a long time. Well, what about the other side of that coin? Are there pre-event indicators before a client catches a pie in the face? Are there pre-event indicators before someone pulls out a gun at an active shooter? And I'm not just talking about bulging on the side of the waistband. I'm going even farther than that.
Yeah.
If my point is to get you left of bang, I want to get you so far left of bang, I want to get you west of bang. Before the gun comes into the scene, I want you to be able to observe behavior and go, of the crowd of people or a bunch of people around you, going, okay, of all these people, potentially this person's going to be my problem child. Now we've, instead of worried about threats everywhere, now we've focused our attention using the content going, okay, I'm going to focus on A, B, and C instead of trying to take in everything. So that left to bang mindset, always looking for those pre-event indicators. And if you can ever find those pre-event indicators, you pull on that thread long enough, what happens? Things start to unravel. And bang doesn't happen. As a young Marine, we always wanted to get in a fight, man.
That's what we're looking for, man.
We're looking for a fight. We're going to get in a fight and finish that fight.
Proving time.
Exactly, but until you get shot at once. Oh, that's horrible. I never want that to ever happen again. So that's why in my older years now I like to operate in that mindset. I look for anything that can disrupt it or have bang fall apart and done because that's sexy to me.
No, that's exactly. I'm right there with you. That's the most sexy when the client doesn't know even anything almost happened, and then you just have to fight the accountants and make sure they know why you're still there, document it and prove it. But and that's essentially what we're all about. I mean, that's private security. That's the deal. Are you a part of any programs now? Are you doing anything? So after you left that, with the Marine Corps, now you got your company Emergence.
Yes, Emergence, yeah.
And you guys are, what you're doing now is really bringing these products to the civilian market.
Yes, yeah. I know my Instagram followers are going to be mad at me because I've been gone for a while now. I've been doing Black Ops all summer. So what I'm trying to do now is I've spent the last year kind of running and gunning, teaching classes, mostly here in California, but a couple other locations. And this whole year I've been getting a lot of hits. Like people are, I call it the zombie effect, man. People that come to the course and like they're frothing at them. They're like, I want more of it. Everyone has to have this, And that's great, and it really gets those people trained. But I got hit up so much throughout the year of people from the UK and people all from Europe and different countries in South America, and asking me for training. Like, hey, I want to do this, but if you're not. If you don't have a company or somebody, an entity behind you, flying someone out to do these courses is cost prohibitive, So I'm trying to spend. I've been spending this part at the end of the summer is trying to make as many products and build some more products online, so you don't have to fly me out. I can be right there with you, smaller chunked, and maybe make it a little bit more specific. So if you're in the EP side, hey, go to this product. And what will hopefully that will lead to by the middle of this year, I'll be putting on actual live coaching.
Awesome.
So instead,
good.
Yeah, I'll get in front of you. We can do the content, and then also that comes with like a 30-minute phone call where we can go over Q&A and even farther down the rabbit hole, like I did in Thousand Oaks last month, where we're actually doing in-person live training in a mall.
Awesome.
And we spent the entire day
reading people just.
And you'd get a chunk of instruction.
That's so good, man. Yeah.
You get a chunk of instruction, and then you'd have to go find it for me. So I'd explain a concept. So, for example, I'd explain situational awareness. Hey, this is what it looks like when someone is exhibiting situational awareness. With your phone, discreetly, go find that.
Awesome.
So they got to walk around the mall and go,
The guy. Because, just like for me, one of the biggest kind of like target indicators are like pieces of information that causes me to cue on somebody, and I think you mentioned this in your course too, is like, who else is paying attention, man? Like, who else in the room is paying attention? Who else is in the hard points in the room? Who else has got his back to the wall?
Exactly.
And it's like, what other players are on the board in this room right now? Are we in a room full of silly villains, or is there another wolf around here? Another guy that's paying attention. And the second you start to realize like who else is kind of paying attention, and then that like real recognize real thing happens. And it's like, are we enemies today? Or
what's happening here?
And then like I'll interview them like I'm gonna do a podcast on like the art of hello. I think it's ultra important. I don't know exactly where it's come from because I haven't done the research yet, but I feel like there's some kind of like this thing inbred in, at least in men, where it's like, the dude, and like you guys recognize each other, and then there's like you say hello, and it's like this thing is like we mean no harm to each other, it's like this disarming thing, And so if I see someone or something, I'll almost always invariably look for that eye contact, give them some gesture of like peace or kind of goodwill, just to see what they're all about. The nod's so good.
It's a bit ubiquitous, and there's actually some science behind it. I can't remember where I read about it. I got so much crap in my head. Don't call me on any of this stuff.
Right? There's someone right there.
Yeah. So, I'm fact check that.
Yeah. The trolls are out there.
But it was cool. It talked about what you're saying. So looking at a room, who's making eye contact, what type of eye contact. Yeah. I remember one of the hacks was head nodding. Mm-hmm. You throw a head nod at somebody. It's a real easy way to disarm them, and a smile. Yeah. As opposed to someone who I heard this, and they'll lock eyes with you. You'll make eye contact, and let's say, for example, you give them a head nod, and they don't give you the head nod back, and they maintain eye contact. Yeah. You have a problem.
Yeah. That's one strike one. Like, you're not going to get a position on me in that room now.
Again, I'm not saying go over and Goldberg the dude. But I'm just saying,
pay attention.
You give him the head nod, he doesn't give it back. They have eye contact, and they don't break it after the head nod.
Yeah.
You got some indicators. That can be predatory.
Exactly. No, I am 100%. And like with what we do, like the social dynamics, it's kind of interesting because like I think it all fuses together for me with the social dynamics of it. I walk into a room with my client. Obviously I'm working the room. I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at everyone. Some guys like to wear sunglasses. I actually don't like to wear sunglasses because I can communicate with my eyes so much. I'm showing kind of goodwill towards people. I'm default respectful to everyone, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm doing everything I can to actually gain as much rapport and give as much respect as possible. So if I do have to say, excuse me, miss or sir, can you take a step to the left or right? I have that kind of like, hey, this guy's not a douchey security guy who just thinks he's.
I'm not going to blow my chest out and cause an issue.
Exactly. Right. So I'm giving them kind of like paying the toll. And I'm really gaining as much rapport and influence as I'm working the room everywhere I go. And it's really easy to see who's not giving that back, who's not reciprocating it when you're just doing that all the time, or if I'm working a venue and I'm at the door, or I'm just working a venue and I'm at a post and I'm looking at people, and I'm reading everyone that comes up. I feel like there's a lot you can get done from the moment you identify someone and they're walking towards you or you're about to make contact. So let's say I'm a security guy, I'm at a post, I'm either doing like halls and walls, or let's say I'm moving with my client and I'm reading people and I'm looking for behavior. What types of things would you say to the guys out in the field that they should be looking for in terms of just like, I don't know, body language, signs that someone, friend, foe, what types of things should guys be looking for when they're moving with a client?
Yeah, so I'm big on being deliberate and lists, being deliberate, active, being mindful of what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Not only understanding behaviors, but what you kind of said when you're walking with a client, you're actively, consciously thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah.
So checklists are fantastic. So, for a quick example, is you're looking for, so step one would be looking for specific threat. And that's the stuff most of us have heard for a long time.
Yeah.
You're looking near to far, bulges in any clothing, especially the waistline, changes in direction, eye contact, either blocking eye contact or a complete lack thereof.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's the presence of something like hard eye contact or the complete lack where socially someone might look at you or whatever. So
they should be aware you're there by now and they're still not looking.
Exactly. Things like that nature. So start with the, overt threats. Is anybody armed? Is anybody running? Any type of loud noises running, engine revving, things of that nature. Are there any overt threats? Okay, I got no overt threats near or far, and now we can back off. Do I have any covert threats? Actually, let me reword that. Overt threats is actual threats. Someone holding a knife, someone holding a gun, somebody coming at your client, whatever. So that's low for overt threats. So we've passed that bar, we're good, we have no overt threats.
Yeah.
Let's move to the next step. And are there any covert threats? Now we're looking for bulging in the waistline, pacifying behavior, people sweating, things of that nature. And then from there, if you've done overt, you've done covert, and you have a lack of threats, that doesn't mean there's no threat there. It doesn't mean there's no threat there. But now you've hopefully identified maybe some players in the room, and now you can back off, and now you're just gathering information. You've made some assumptions based off your overt and covert kind of observations. You're like, I think.
Yeah.
And now in the collection phase, kind of where you're standing by, now you're just spending more time watching, see if you can pull any more information.
Yeah.
You were watching a certain behavior, kicked you off, and you're like, well, what was that? That was weird. Maybe you do a little sustained observation going, oh, that person's doing A, B, and C. Maybe they're hurt, whatever it is. You have an explanation, so now you can paint them out. Now they're off your target list for everything, or you're adding people on. So if that makes sense. So always running through that kind of list. I don't care what you call it, overt, covert, whatever it is, but have some type of standardized list. There's a portion in the SEAL training. I was watching a documentary, and their dive section, they lose a lot of people, a lot of attrition, huge. They spend all this time making the SEALs, and then you get to the dive phase, drop like 50% of them, Jeez. So they had a big problem with it. So they brought in experts and whatnot, and they brought an expert in, and his big thing was, obviously paraphrasing, but you gotta make a checklist, and you gotta do the checklist. You cannot deviate. So the one event was. You've probably seen it on TV where they shark you, they pull your tank off, they tie it in a knot, they punch you in the gut, and and it's made to simulate like a dark cave or underground. You're rolling with a wave, and that's where they had their biggest problem. They instituted this list thing, and their attrition or their pass rates went up way like 30-40%.
Awesome.
And as long as they used it, and so much so that they adopted it so much so that the SEAL cadre, as they're watching someone in the pool, let's say he goes down. They shark him, he gets the thing back up, and I watched this happen. The guy doesn't follow the checklist. He gets the apparatus back up. He comes up and he breaks surface and goes, hey, I'm good. That's a signal. And they go, you failed, get out of the pool. And he's like, what the hell, why did I fail? They're like, yeah, you got the rig up, but you didn't follow the checklist.
So now it's that important.
Yeah, because if you do it in a cave at dark under a boat, are you going to be as calm? You need to follow that shit. So that's my rant.
Yeah, no, for sure. Understand your protocols, understand the things you're looking for, and then another thing that always comes to mind with me is just like, what's the kind of the baseline, the norm for where I'm at, if I'm in a concert with a client, the norm is people screaming and running around and, but if we're back in one of the hallways that we're, where there's not supposed to be anyone, and I have somebody who's not in the uniform or not wearing the badge, or the biggest one is they just look like they're not supposed to be there. Dude, they're
that's all it takes.
Looking around and they're trying to be cool, and you're just you're not supposed to be here. No, that's good stuff, man. Have your checklist. I think a lot of us do it so much, because we're always with clients, we're always rolling with clients and stuff, that it may not always be conscious and cognitive. There's something to be said for really becoming more deliberate about what you're doing.
You're never going to be able to maintain full consciousness all the time. You're not going to be like, all right, step one. So it's just the
nature of it.
Ability to keep attention, your brain. There's a biological component. But if you're deliberate, you wake up every day going, I'm going to try to stick to the schedule, follow my procedures. You do those procedures. Remember the Marine Corps when they tell you to teach, or when they tell you to search someone or search a car the exact same way every time.
100%.
There's a reason, so you remember and you don't skip a step. You don't go, did I search a car? Same thing when you're doing your procedures during the day, or walking with your client, you're walking the diamond, checking the venue. Try to put a procedure to it and follow that procedure. Be as conscious as you can about it. Again, you're going to lose that, but just always try to reattack that consciousness, because it can really help. Yeah,
I think there's something to be said for just putting the flashlight of your mind on, hey, I'm going to really start paying attention to what everyone around us is doing. Can you talk a little bit about something that I found really interesting is kind of paying attention to what people's limbic system is doing around you, self-soothing behavior, what does that really look like if I'm talking to someone and, and then, it's not always a threat, like a weapon threat.
Yes.
Sometimes they just want to try and get a signature, or they want to bug your client when your client doesn't want to be bugged. Well, if you're doing executive protection and your client gets bugged when they don't want to be bugged, that could be the last day you're working. That's a threat to you.
Exactly,
And so being able to read these things, what would you say about that, man? Just reading.
Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to before when I talked about really have to leave combat hunter and change.
Yeah.
Because, it's what I was teaching, they're fairly kinetic, for bombs and AKs and all that stuff. It's now exactly what you just said. It's not, I'm looking out for that physical threat, but another threat to you might be a client interaction.
Yeah.
Where things don't go, I remember one EP guy was telling me, depending on who his client is, he'll send out different resumes. So it could be you, Byron.
Yeah.
And one person, like, he knows they're hardcore. And he's like,
So he's got like
combat action, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and
meat eater.
Yeah, meat eater. And then the same one, they got the same guy, but it's a different one. So
there's a corporate one where
corporate
he's like,
one,
yeah, you know,
community
folks,
leader. It's the
Yeah.
same dude. I know you, man.
Yeah, vegetarian one.
Yeah. So definitely, exactly what you said. Sometimes it's not the anomalies aren't physical threats. Sometimes it's more information that can still help you, especially with pacifying behavior. Pacifying behavior is, think of it like nervous energy. You're trying to bleed off your body. Okay, there's some type of fear or threat in your head, and your limbic system, your fear center's processing some type of fear or threat. And it's being manifested physically. So what am I talking about? Rubbing the back of the neck, cleansing of the face, cleansing of the hair, pinching of the bridge of the nose, over here doing this number, self-touch, you can't really see it, but if you've ever seen somebody kind of stand there, giving themselves a hug, that's one too. All pacifying behaviors, anything can be a pacifying behavior, but if you see that, again, I'm not saying run over there and Goldberg that person, but there is some type of fear or threat there. There's somebody's amping up, okay? It could be they had a bad day, they tripped and hurt their foot, they're sick, whatever it is, or it could be they might be looking to do something nefarious towards you or your clientele. So for example, getting a signature. I know that's a big one. Some people do it, some people don't. Some people, it changes. So looking at an individual who maybe you got your eye on, who you see a pacifying behavior, they might be amping themselves up to just make that interaction. It's not a threat. It's not a threat, and they're not trying to hurt anybody. And you should treat it like a threat, but you still need to handle it. You still need to manage it.
Stay left to that bang, man.
So when you see that, you might go, and that class we were in, his name was Heinrich. Remember Heinrich?
Heinrich, he's in here somewhere.
Yeah, is he? Yeah, Heinrich. I'm gonna completely steal your story, but he had a great thing he would do when he was working EP, that he would spot the person, and he would spot the light bulb going off, so they would look at the client.
Yes, this is so.
The eyes flash,
And they're trying to figure out who it is, and they're like,
and you see the eye flash, and they're getting all excited. And he said his tactic, he will try to set himself up in their vision, their line of vision. So as they're just that light bulb's going on,
they're about to make a move,
they look at him, and he's already nodding his head at him, and they're kind of and they move off.
Snaps him right out of it. That's true. That's good stuff, Heinrich. That's solid game, man.
Simple thing like that. You weren't rude. You didn't even have an interaction with them. They didn't get near you and anybody. A simple thing like that. You're establishing your presence quickly. You can establish your presence by being a big guy, being swole out muscle dude. But there's other ways to establish that. Little hacks like that. My
eye contact's so huge. Because I'm not that big of a dude. I'm like 240, like 5'10", 5'11", if I put my church shoes on.
I'm like always the smallest dude on the detail, pretty much. And that's the game for me, man. It's the presence. I believe comes from like a sense of really confidence, confidence and focus, and being able to just know what you can do, and know why you're there. I feel like it's like an energy. That you kind of, some people carry and some people don't. Some people develop it as they become more comfortable. Really, as they become more and more confident in their role and what they're doing. I have had a client be like, look, sometimes some guys haven't, some guys don't, and he would just interview guys, and if they didn't have any presence, they wouldn't get the job, and it was like a make or break thing for him, and so that right there is big, and I think the more, not soft combatants, but the more like socially, like tools that are socially effective to help us do our job, kind of the better off all of us are, because being big is effective and it has a lot of deterrence, but at the same time it draws a lot of attention, and so like
everybody knows someone's
so like I've walked in with big guys and everyone at that moment. Now, if you have a face, you have a client that's unmistakable, and then it comes with the territory, But if you're trying to get up underneath that radar, you have to be able to. And I think it's really important that we all just use the tools we're dealt. Like I used to want to be one of those really big dudes for a while, but I had to use my shell. I learned to use the tools that I was dealt in the game. Smaller guys like now it's becoming more and more popular for guys that are not as big and aggressive, the gray man kind of security guy is like in vogue right now, and I love it. You know, it's a smart security, man. Like you have less. Anytime I was with a group or a client where I could stay underneath the radar, there are far less instances and incidents,
of course,
because we were just like, no one really knew who we were, you know? And there's a lot to be said for that. But I guess my point is, you know, no matter what you're at, what side of the fence you are, if you're on the big guy side of the fence or the small guy side of the fence, play the cards you're dealt, play those well. I think the most sophisticated tool set is the set of tools that you can use that puts you in a position where you don't even have to lift a finger.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't even have to lift a finger.
A guy I did a couple of things on. He works for a major company that provides EP. I won't say the name, but he trains hundreds of EP guys a year.
Yeah.
And he told me, the first thing I tell people, you know, when they come to me is, I'm going to take something away and I'm going to give something to you.
Awesome.
And he's going to take away the mean mugging face.
Yeah, man, that's not it anymore.
He goes, that's gone.
Yeah.
While you're on the clock, you can't have that face on.
Awesome.
By the way, I'm going to replace it with a smile.
Yes.
You know, a big old fat customer service smile.
Yeah.
Hey, how can I help you? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If the interaction, and, you know, it's not to be said that, you know, if the interaction goes the other way, that's like, all right.
The quiet storm.
Yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm real good at that side.
Yeah.
But being savvy enough to, what you said, nip it in the bud, it's verbal judo. It's what cops do.
That's
You know?
100%.
How do you talk a guy into a handcuff instead of duking it out with him, getting, you know, cops don't want to fight.
Yeah.
Who wants to fight? Who wants to get in a fight and get
Scuffed
pepper
up.
spray yourself, and mess up your uniform?
Yeah.
So I'd rather talk him into that situation. So I guarantee it's the same thing, you know, different context, but same thing
Yeah.
with AP. How do I talk my in and out of this?
Absolutely, with less kind of, you know, you're not the police, you're just another civilian, you know? So you're ultra kind of like, you really have to do the dance right because, you know, you have no authority, there's no high ground.
That same guy, he exactly what you said. I love the EP world. I've done some security gigs before.
Yeah.
I was on a security detail in Iraq, but that's a different beast, because we just answer everything with lead, you know?
Yeah.
But the same guy, he told me an incident. EP is such a weird animal.
Yeah.
It's a different animal.
It's
man.
this weird gray area, man.
You have to, you know, be hardcore and put on the face and do the presence, but you got to be the customer service side of it.
Yeah.
And he told me a real interesting story about A-level celebrity, and they're in India.
Uh-huh.
And if you've ever been to India, they got
Yes,
those
I have.
the tuk-tuks. you
Yep,
know?
tuk-tuks everywhere.
Yeah.
In between everything,
Yeah,
on
everything.
top of everything.
And apparently,
no one listens to you.
Yeah.
No one listens to you.
Yeah. And apparently, like, the mortality rate on those things is like 70%.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, and you had a client who had a driver in a vehicle, and they you know, they're like, oh, I want to take a tuk-tuk back.
Of course.
Yeah. And this guy, with this A-list celebrity,
Yeah.
can't be, and he was an upper position kind of guy. He
Yeah.
wasn't a new guy. He couldn't just be like, yeah, we're not doing that. You know, it wasn't an option.
How do you say no to your client?
Yeah.
That's a whole podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole other. And he had to like explain to me how he had to pretty much do verbal
Judo, yeah.
Well, look, if you go on the tuk-tuk, the driver they're going to send him home. He's not going to get paid. They're going to think it's an insult.
Yeah.
He'll lose his job, you know.
Yeah.
And then finally they're like, oh, never mind, we'll just go home.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's stuff you don't think about.
That's the stuff you don't think about, and it's highly corrosive. You have to be able to really manage. I mean, you're trying to get your job done, but you have to manage the options because at the end of the day, it's your fault. You know what I mean? Your security. And I think a lot of people, you know, I hate the stigma that comes with it, you know, being the security guy.
Yeah.
But I think also there's a subconscious understanding for what security really is that a lot of people don't pay attention to. Because every time I'm in on a detail with a client, whatever it is, no matter how far the ball drops or whoever drops it, when it hits the ground, it's security's fault.
Yeah.
Because if you think about security, security is everything.
Yeah.
Like security is everything. It doesn't matter. No, it's your fault. You know what I mean? Like the you know, the car seat didn't make it into the trunk. You know, who forgot my juices and berries for this trip? Like you're gonna be standing next to your client when the news hits them, and then it's like, geez, you know.
Yeah.
So you have to take into consideration all these different things, and when it comes to saying no to your client, you know. And you're dealing with individuals who can pretty much have whatever they want when they want, or they can hire someone who can get them what they want. It's you're like that lion tamer in the circus kind of.
Dance.
Yeah,
Hell of a dance.
Yeah, very respectful. It's a dance, man. It takes time in service with your client too to understand how to do it right, you know, and know what buttons to push and where to set things down, you know.
I could just imagine, you know, being a hardcore motivator, coming off of combat tours, and serving your country, and it's like, hey, where the applesauce at?
Yep.
I don't know where the damn applesauce is.
I'm not an applesauce here.
I'll go get applesauce.
Did you just say to me? It happens, bro. I've seen it. And the cognitive dissonance that results from this, you know? And you're just sitting there, and I saw it, man. And you're like staring at yourself in your suit, and you're like, what am I doing, man? What am I doing?
My buddy I served with back in the day, he worked for one of these big firms, and he had that moment that you just said.
Yeah.
I still remember because he said he was on the beach. He's in a full suit with a body armor on the beach with a trauma bag, watching his client who just felt the whim to have a pallet bonfire
Yes!
on the beach, and he's standing there at midnight in the suit holding a triangle. What the hell?
What am I doing?
Watching this guy dance around a fire.
That is EP stuff. That is real EP right there. You know, everyone thinks it's so funny. That's real, man.
That's funny.
And that's the game. You know, that's good stuff. What would you say, you know, principally, if we were going to go into like principles of like predicting people, principles of pre-threat indicators and things like that, if you were going to give like EP, the private security guys, some principles, what kind of principles you do?
Yeah, so I'm really bad at narrowing down lists. I have the curse of knowledge. Like once you know so much, you know,
like you just start.
I'm like 9 steps away, and people are like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So I'm trying to be as basic as I can.
Yeah, no worries.
For EP, and help me out if I get a little weird. Or Facebook, if I get a little voodoo on you, bring me back to earth. You know,
I want all the voodoo, man. You know, we can deconstruct it later. You know what I mean?
So I'd say the number one thing for this situation, and we'll say just for EP, is
or security.
Or security. It's this 90%, 95% of my content has application all over the place. Back when I was at Combat Hunter, what I was teaching there was pretty specific to combat arms and military. So
shock troop.
Shock troop. And it's like, I'm not telling people, I'm not cops or people. That's a different one. But a big one I really want to say is never explain away somebody's actions. Okay?
Love it.
This has a physical form to it, and also maybe a paperwork, a resume form to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy stuff happening, so I'll just do the physical side. So you see something. This is where people get into trouble. They fall into denial, and you don't even realize you're doing it because you do it probably 10 or 15 times a day.
Yeah.
Is you see some type of behavior or an action by somebody, and you see it happen, and you might even consciously, go, you know what? That was weird. I wonder why that person did that. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Where people get in trouble is the next statement in their head is probably, he's probably doing A, B, or C. And you fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Okay? You have just explained away that person's actions.
Yeah.
It's not your job, it's not your position to do that. Okay? Don't explain away someone's actions. Let them, if you're in the ability to do that or in a position to do it, let them explain their actions.
Yeah, because you just don't know their intent. Just accept the fact that you don't know their intent.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you're a civilian, you might be a little bit more limited. You can't be doing like consensual contact. You're like, hey, let me talk to you. You see what I mean? You know?
What was that about?
Yeah.
Why'd you clean the trash can just now? What were you doing?
and even from EP side of it, then your position it only goes so far.
Yeah.
Stop, contact someone, have a conversation. But do you have arrest powers? Can you force them to leave the venue? Maybe But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even that goes so far.
So don't explain away
never explain
people's actions. And for us, like the second when I see something like that happen, I see anything, I am. Information's going everywhere.
Yep.
Like, hey, keep an eye on dude in the red shirt. I don't know. Like, I literally last night we're moving a client. There's a guy standing next to the client with a Bluetooth, and he's standing just all the stuff you're talking about, bro. Like standing all like close to the client, like sliming close, and you like kind of get between them, and I'm like, yeah, exactly, go back to where and I'm like default, like, oh, excuse me, sir, how you doing? Yeah, and he's just like staring at me, and he, just like you were saying, bro, looks at me, doesn't say anything, and then like goes back to when he like tries to ignore me but doesn't move.
then he's on his Bluetooth and he's like, yeah, these guys, he's like kind of talking about us. And I'm like, kind of like between him and the client, we're like this close, and he's just like pretending like he doesn't see me, like the lack of eye contact now. And then we're getting ready to move. He's like, yeah, they're going out to the car now. I'm like,
that's not okay.
Yeah, you know, so we push guys out and like sweep the whole area and
all that trash, but like all those pre-threat indicators were that like cluster of behavior. You know, if I would have tried to explain away, you know what, he's probably just talking to his friend, he's excited because our client's, you know, around, and he's like really looking at our, you know, security posture. It's probably interesting him giving the venue, maybe he didn't expect to see it, or blah blah blah. You know, all those different things. And I feel like this is probably something that maybe civilians might struggle with a little more than guys that have seen trash go hard into the right before, you know, because like they kind of may struggle with the reality that things can just get terrible, you know. But that's awesome, man. And just last night, you know, I had the opportunity to do that, so that's big, man, and that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's one side of it, is never explaining away someone's actions. And why I brought up paperwork or resume is this is another component, especially for the EP world. From what I've done some work around, is the estate planners and estate managers. So someone wants to come in and have a job with your client, okay, housekeeper, whatever it is, delivery service. You know, what due diligence are you doing on these people? Okay. So we have all this due diligence we have with people we meet in the outside world, where we can't really control the baseline or whatever. But what are you doing for those people coming in? And obviously, I'm sure there's, you know, criminal background checks and all that good stuff. But this I got from a corporate insider threat thing. Is someone puts in a resume or puts in a bio or whatever, and you see something on there. Let's, you know, for example, weird travel patterns, whatever it is. Throw it out there, weird travel patterns. You see something that raises your ire, throw it on the table. You don't gotta be rude, but don't explain away their actions. Go, hey, I see you travel to Kazakhstan for, you know, 3 weeks, you know, last or whatever.
Yeah, so like what's
up with that?
What's in Kazakhstan?
Yeah.
And like say the least amount possible. Like,
exactly.
Like
let
I'm giving you no stimulus as to what I think is acceptable or not acceptable.
Yep. Let them talk.
Make your bed.
Yep. I learned this from an Israeli guy. I was doing prac out. He actually had a woman in front of me. I'm questioning her, and it was an corporate insider threat scenario. And Amot from Chameleon Associates, good man. And he did some time in IDF and whatnot. And I'm questioning this woman. I'm being all hardcore with her.
Yeah.
And she was applying for a position with me. And I had to go through her resume and then question her about it. And I go through her resume and I see a couple things, and I go after her, and I'm like, you know, like movie style interrogator. I was a grunt, you know, I don't know.
There ain't gonna be no easy way.
Yeah, where were you? And I'm like doing the like
knife hand in her chesty and chesty pulling her.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like she's a great role player. She was fantastic because she's going off on tangents. She's like, she goes, oh yeah, I can answer that. And she'd like just go off randomly rabbit holes, and I'd have to keep bringing her back. Like, ma'am, okay, I understand that, but I need you to answer this question. Just really flitty. And finally, I'm kind of machine gunning stuff at her, and Amot steps in and he slaps me on the back, and he goes, Yousef, shut up. Let her talk.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh? That's when the light bulb went on, and so I just shut my mouth and just let him talk and build the narrative.
Yeah.
So same thing with the paperwork, with people you're letting into that security bubble. If there's something there, don't explain it away. Let them explain it. You got to be rude. You just put it on the table and go, look, hey, I think this is a little odd. Can you tell me the story, the background behind it?
I think too, like, I won't even, if I think something's a little off, like, I almost sound like I encourage it. I'm like, so, yeah, I noticed you were traveling over to the Middle East, what, you know, what's going on? Like, I do actually really like that part of the world. And kind of on what you were saying about the whole let them talk thing, I have had some painful experiences with some guys.
Oh, I'm sure. Where that could go wrong eventually.
Where I'm just like, we're trying to get information from someone and we're asking them questions, or we're just talking, and you know, because the offensive side of security, you know, if you're working church security and you're trying to figure out what's going on, what happened, you know, you're at a venue and like, you know, you have like a 5150 and people are telling you, you know, things about what the person's doing, or the person's talking to you about what they're
understanding your orientation is. Like, oh, well, you know, my name's Jeff, and you're like, oh, okay, Jeff, you seem kind of normal, and like you got a flute in your hand, you know, like, what's the deal, or whatever it is.
It's America, right?
It does so much for you to like let them just talk and get as long as you're in a safe environment, gather as much information for that good, clear picture of their intent, and like get more than a thin slice, you know, of them, and don't be so bent on trying to like dictate your orders or enforce your command, like what you're there to do, because the information is what is like fleeting and what is so precious in order to help you be most effective in the situation. Like the information is what empowers you to make the right decision in the situation, you know. So I like that happened on numerous occasions where I've had someone with me or been working with somebody else, and they're like da 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 da, and they're kind of like barking orders, and I'm like, no, man, I'm getting everything right now, and I'm gaining rapport, because when you're listening, you're gaining rapport in a lot of instances. Even if like I had a guy talk to me the other day about, you know, a situation where someone was trying to get to his client, they really wanted to talk to the client, they had a problem they needed to take up with the client was like, no, we're not doing this right now, you know. And then he interacted with the person, and this happens all the time, so it's just a situation, and the person's like, I have to talk to your client, you know, and he told the person no, you know. Something that has worked for me on like a ridiculous amount of occasions is I'll listen to him. I'm like, well, and especially since I don't have time, I'm like, well, right now with everything that's going on, you know, we can't accommodate that right now. But if you give me your information, we can set something up during the week. I can approach my client. We can find out if we can set something up during the week, and we can possibly make that happen. Don't overpromise something you can't deliver on, but don't resist them directly.
Turn it into the hill you're gonna die on.
Yeah, the ego battle now starts up, and you know, long story short, over the trajectory of that interaction and that night, turns out that the patron had a weapon on him, a concealed weapon on him, that they ended up bringing, like, you know, they brandished the weapon and everything else.
Really?
And one guy was really close within arm's distance, telling the person, hey, you know, you're not going to do what you need to do, and you need to calm down. An arm's distance away from the person being able to strike him with, you know, a blade. It was an aggressive weapon. It was like brass knuckles with a blade on it. Yeah, man. And so, you know, things like that are they're out there, and they can happen to you. And I mean, like, this isn't my specialty, but what I would say is never judge a book by its cover, because that would have been one of those no one would have seen it coming type of situations. And it kind of goes back into don't think you know what you're dealing with.
When it comes to observation and biases, you can get into trouble. I've gotten in trouble before.
Observational bias is huge.
Yeah, and you know, people ask me, you know, well, I tell people, you know, everyone's been to a school where you thump your, you know, chest and like, you're gonna listen to me because I'm bad, you know, awesome, and you know, it's like, you're not gonna listen to me because of that. You're gonna listen to me because I've fallen on my butt like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I've invented ways to screw this up. So trust me, you want to listen.
Yeah.
But that being combative, I tell cops this too, and it has to do with emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And cops, I always cops crack up when I do this joke because it's a little bit inside.
Yeah.
But I'll ask them, you have somebody just like your position where you have an interaction with a citizen, everything's going great, maybe like a cop got there, they were freaking out, you know, and the cop, he did his thing, did the verbal judo, got that person ready, everything calmed down, doing good community policing, de-escalation, they're about to shake hands and walk away, and then that guy shows up.
That tough guy.
Yeah, tough guy.
Yes.
Now he shows up, he's hiking his belt up, he's like, hey, what's up, what's going on, you know? And then like 5 minutes later of that guy showing up, you're duking it out, fighting the person, macing everybody.
They're like, I was gonna go home, but that guy.
Now I'm drenched in mace and my uniform's ripped, and, you know, and then it's like, dude, come on, man, I had that. Yeah. But people want to be combative.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what are you there to do?
Exactly. And combat begets combat.
Yeah.
You know, and people are. I approach everyone like they have the power to kill me. I look at everyone like they have the power to kill me, because you just don't know what people are capable of. You don't have eyes on the back of your head. You don't always know what's going on, you know. So like, I don't know. I feel like there's like just a reverence and and a respect for people that people deserve.
You know what I mean? Because you really just don't know. And I think that that's wisdom when it comes to dealing with humans, man.
But you mentioned a few things, observational biased. Can you just break that term down for the folks?
All right, so, man, I don't want to get into whiteboard stuff.
I mean, we got the whiteboard. We can whiteboard it up if you want to get loose, man.
Just turn it real quick.
Yeah, man. We got it right here. It's a good view, too.
Got it?
Yeah, man, I got you.
So obviously, when it comes to biases, we have our own biases. So I try to tell people, you know, if you're making it like the small I just did, I was coaching someone personally in it, and I said, hey, when you're making your observations and you're establishing baselines in your situation, try not to put your own biases in it. So instead of standing there like in this food court and a guy walks in and go, oh, some creepy homeless dude just walked in, I'm gonna watch him. It's like that, those are biases. An individual walked in, you know, you might have a bias that homeless people are dangerous. I'm not saying, you know, that'd be a wrong bias, but you're assuming it too much right there. Keep your observations based on what you can see, and you'll be a lot easier. Biases exist everywhere. Everyone has biases. You cannot stop them. It's a scientific fact. Yeah. So anybody that tells you different, you know, it's not true. There are biases, so just learn to manage them. But also when it comes to biases, what we're looking for. So the EP side of the house, you might have, you know, your incident right here. Here's bang, like we talked about before, okay?
Like the Batman movie.
Yeah, Batman movie, okay? Here's you and your security detail, okay? Kind of moving towards that. This is kind of a time thing, so we're getting closer to bang. And here's your perpetrator, moving this way on bang, okay? And all along the way, we have these pre-event indicators, planning and whatnot for them to get to that bang area. So when I say my bias is more observing, sometimes, can people still hear me?
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just looking for bang, right? As an EP person, as a cop, a military, we're looking for the gun, the bomb, the immediate threat to my client, okay? And then, again, you got to do that. You have to make sure you're doing that. But what about all these other pre-event indicators? Can we do kind of some observation over here, observation over here, observation over here, kind of see where I'm going with that? Yes, we want to make sure we prevent this and look out for this, but there are all these pre-event indicators where we can try to shift our bias from only looking for that kinetic event back here, looking for these sometimes innocuous pre-event indicators. You might look at those pre-event indicators and go, there's no threat there. You're right, but that information might lead you up the ladder. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do is, instead of looking just for bang, yeah, we got to know where that's at, but can we walk back our planning, our team tactics, whatever it is, our MO of our criminal. So let's say
the type of threats we're looking for.
You
know, what relative to your client. You know, what kind of things, like, have you gotten any recent threats?
Yep.
You know, do you have any specific groups that don't like your client?
What happened at this venue the last time we were here? Was there any previous incidents? You know.
Yeah.
Israelis are really good at this because they'll take that entire concept of the MO, the modus operandi. So let's say you got a checkpoint, you know, in Israel. This is to get into Israel. These Israeli Border Patrol are trained in the MO of someone trying to cross this area. So this is a border checkpoint. So ask yourself, all right, what threats are we looking for here?
Yeah. And what do they know about us? Like, they know we're stationary. They kind of know our protocols. Like,
yep, exactly.
At what point in my search are they might they get fraudish if they're looking for vulnerabilities?
Exactly.
You know.
And once you can understand the enemy side or the bad guy side of the MO, you can start putting things. So and you can focus your observations. These Border Patrol, these guys aren't looking for tanks or this, that, and the other thing. They have a very specific set of MO. Someone smuggling explosives, someone smuggling something, or bad paperwork, bad identification. So they have a specific set of indicators they're looking for in this venue. Yeah. Okay, once they leave this venue, that context changes. Right here for this venue, here's the MO of my perpetrator. So just spitballing here, for example, an EP, anybody with a water bottle in their hand, or a spray bottle, or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
Again, you could probably come up with
like
examples.
if I'm looking for things, if I'm rolling with my client, I'm really paying attention to who's paying attention to me, their positioning. Like, I'm big on the proxemics, man. Like, where are these people positioning themselves? Who's paying attention to me? I'm looking at hands all the time,
Yep.
And those are kind of the main things that I'm paying, and just kind of the overall energy. Like Heinrich says, the light bulb going off, that's huge, man, because it's like, you see them they make your detail and they're like kind of looking at you guys. And they're kind of like doing the whole like, I'm not looking, but I'm looking.
Yeah, but I'm sort of looking, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like trying to figure out which one's the client and stuff. And I remember at one time when I actually did get quite freaked out, actually, was we were in Beverly Hills and I was rolling with a client and I'm in front, my client's right behind me, and this guy's wearing a suit and he looked kind of like we had certain cultures and individuals that given threats to this client, and he was in one of those culture segments and he's walking directly at me, locks eyes with me, and we just have this intense exchange, like totally nonverbal, but he's like not getting off the line either way, and we just lock eyes and walk towards each other. At the last minute, he just kind of goes around me, and I'm just like telling my buddies, I'm like, pick this guy up at like 12 o'clock, and we're gonna just kind of shield him. But at the last minute, he like dipped around me. Yeah. It reminded me of Iraq. Like, are these guys probing us? Because we're on knowing your baseline and like where we are. We're always here. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, this is where we're always traveling. I'm totally paying attention to, obviously we're paying attention to the bubble. No one's getting into that inside of that bubble if we can, and stay between our client and everything else. Yep. And that, it's kind of the types of things that we're looking for all the time as we're rolling, man. That's good stuff.
Yeah, part of what you were talking about, the other thing. So that's the first one is having that mindset, but also having calling it the bad guy mindset, putting the bad guy hat on, or red celling, military red cell. So we're being very proactive in our observations. We're looking for a prevent indicators left of bang. We want to disrupt bang from happening. But also, I love injecting red cell, and I've done a lot of stuff with not just EP people, but I can talk about it. Coachella, doing this with Coachella, huge 120,000 people, and we applied this kind of mindset, and we made a lot of good observations from it. Yeah. But put the hat on. Yeah. So right here, right now, how would I get at my client? Yeah. How would I squirt them in the face? How would I physically harm them? Whatever it is, how would I close that distance? Where the vulnerabilities, and always kind of playing that game or having that status can really help you out, because and when I go to different people, so for example, if I trained your team, like as a consultant, people think of a consultant like this guy's going to tell us what to do. It's like, I don't know your job. I ain't never done your job. I don't know your day-to-day. I do know behavior awareness and profiling and some things you can do. So what I would do is I would sit down with you guys and go, let's brainstorm. Let's red cell. How are some different ways we're going to do this? And we'd come up, we'd actually go full blown. And usually you use this for terrorist type plots, but you actually sit there and plan out the whole thing.
This is our new battlefield. This is the stuff.
Yep. And you plan it out, you make a word map or whatever it is, you can find a lot of vulnerabilities. I just did this with the LA sheriffs a few months back, and I won't say where it is, but there's a major location in Los Angeles where it was such a major location that they had a sub police station there, so you have officers on the deck there.
Yeah, just because it was that high.
Yeah, that high, and it's not a big blue, it's just a mini department. Anyway, long story short, the main sheriff's dispatch had that area gridded out in sectors. So if they had to tell an outside cop how to get there, they'd tell him, hey, go to sector 10, and he would know what that meant.
Okay.
The substation at the facility had it was a retail area. Yeah. They had it broken out by store.
Okay.
They didn't even know about the region.
They're speaking different languages.
They're speaking different languages, and you tell me, people responding to an active shooter, you think that's going to cause a problem?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dispatching this officer here, and so and that didn't come from me. That came from the process of doing this. The process is fantastic, and they did it, and they were all kind of standing around going, holy crap, that's a problem. And
this is a freaking hole for us.
Yeah, and I'm going, hey, that's an issue, huh? And they're like, yeah, that's a huge issue for us. So
dude, that's huge.
Red cell is huge. It's part of being left to bang. It's the non-kinetic part or non-real-time part about being left to bang. So you're playing this bad guy mindset before you even get on the facility, before you're even with the client. You can just sit there and go, who am I going with? Where am I going? Who's going to be there? And you can already start wargaming these things before you ever get to the venue where you pick someone up.
So. That's so good. And you're advanced. in your advance, guys. You drop in, you're setting up the whole entire venue pre-advanced before you even get boots on the deck. You know, you're going over everything in your head. You're researching all your locations. You're doing your whole like satellite recon, and you're looking for those vulnerabilities in your movements. And you know which part of the venues, you know, at what venues that you're gonna have those vulnerabilities. I 100%, man, like the mind of the enemy is like a place you want to frequently be, because I do this a lot too. And after you get there and you do your advance and you put your whole op together before that client ever lands, you want to think to yourself, where are my friction points, where are my bottlenecks, and where am I vulnerable? And you want, like for me, like some guys are like ultra smart and they can just be like, yo, we're gonna do this. This is the plan, we're just gonna do it. Me, yo, I mean, I got a couple of TBIs and things. So like, I gotta like, you know, I gotta
write it down.
I gotta walk it. Yeah, write it down, walk it.
Yep.
Walk it. I gotta drive it. I gotta go to the venue. And that helps me with a lot of this trash, because then I'm getting a baseline. I'm understanding what the norms are. I'm understanding what people are doing at that time of day. I'm understanding who was there, you know, who's supposed to be there, who's not supposed to be there. Understanding what the uniforms and everything looks like. And I'm taking in all this data when I'm there. And so I can apply it meaningfully when I'm on the ground with my client. And it's just all those observational skills, man, that we're talking about. And I'm thinking like I was at a venue that was like a Coachella, a few weeks back, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking like, okay, these guys don't seem to be too big on security. They have your square badge layer, and I put this in my brief too, but it just didn't seem like they had much more than the unarmed square badge layer. You know what I mean? And we're in a country where they didn't really believe in security too much too. So it's kind of like, you know, now you really have to lean heavily on what's my evacuation plan going to be if there is an emergency, since people shoot venues up and blow them up now. Like last year we had venues.
That's a thing now.
That's a thing, yeah, like hashtag, like new, I don't know what you want to call it, but like, yeah, and you know, we're in Vegas shooting stuff up. So, you know, think about your evac plan. Think about your kind of like, I guess I call it non-conventional evac plan. You know, like you're trying to really go the way that everyone's going to go. You're going to go ahead and compete with thousands of people trying to leave a venue. Is that what you're gonna do? You know?
It's going to work out great for you.
Yeah, right. Now, me, you know, I'm looking at ways to get my client out of the VIP section, over that fence where my car's parked as quickly as possible, and having the gear with you to do it if you need to. You know, so thinking from the mind of your enemy, I think that's something that no matter what you're doing, even if it's in your jujitsu game, like that's like foundational, man. That's good. That's good stuff. I always say good trash because in Marine Corps we call everything trash.
Trash is good.
Trash is good. Yeah, civilians always look at me. They're like, "What are you calling trash? Like, are we good? Like, it's not trash. I'm talking about, you know, my divorce." I'm like, "Nah, it's cool. It's like a thing."
I got a couple of those a day.
Yeah. So, any other principles that you're thinking of?
I mean, there's so many. Come to my class, come to my training, get it online if you have to. That's my problem. That's why I try to distill those down. So you know, have that bad guy mindset. You know, and be naturally curious. You know, a good observer is naturally curious. Going back with never explaining away someone's behavior. Also, don't just stop at face value. Let me give an example. Cover stories. For example, usually people don't really think if someone's trying to be deceptive and trying to sneak into a venue or get with you guys, they're going to come up with a cover story of what their role is and what they're doing there. So cover for them and cover for action, what they're actually. So as a construction worker, my cover would be like, oh, I'm dressed up like a construction worker. My action, my cover for action would be like, oh, I'm working on this pipe or whatever. So a couple different things. Most people don't think very deep in those stories, and if you dig about 3 layers deep, usually those stories start to fall apart. So for your question, if you got
awesome. So 3 layers. 3 layers. There's 3 questions about so you're a construction worker.
Doing a narrative for
a company.
Yeah, exactly. Who, what, when, where, why.
And now they're like trying to think about what they're going to do.
And you know, simple questioning techniques, and it's a great one. And airports use it. Some other security officials I work
in Israel, they use that.
They
jam you up. They're good.
Where do you think I learned it from?
Much respect. I love these guys.
Yeah, so they do stuff like that. It's a good tactic. And,
Okay, that's awesome. One of the things I was wondering, what do I have here? What do you think makes you really good at what you do? What do you think is like the best weapon or your best weapon personally? What makes you really good at what you do?
In terms of teaching and instructing, consulting? Okay. Oh, now you're going to make me talk about myself. That's I think I'm personable enough with people. I think, I don't know, I can communicate with people on a level playing field. Mm-hmm. So within a room, and I get this all the time, you got to speak to your audience, right?
Yeah.
In the military, that was easy. If I'm talking to cops, that's another thing. If I'm talking to EP, that's another thing.
Yeah.
But what happens when you have EP, military, cop, mom and pop, and a kindergarten teacher and a construction worker all in one room?
And some church goers.
Yeah, and some church goers. Right. It's like, man, how do you gap that? How do you bridge that gap? And so I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Whatever I'm doing seems to work.
Yeah.
People seem to like it. So my ability to communicate is one thing. I'm probably a mediocre person when it comes to situational awareness.
Yeah.
People ask me like, "Oh,
that's interesting.
Subject matter expert," and it's like, man, I know enough to get my butt kicked.
Hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No.
But when it comes to terms of imparting that knowledge on people, that's where I think I shine, and that's where I try to keep my niche there.
That's awesome to be able to admit that.
And honestly, man, people ask me like, "Oh, tell me a cool profiling story or a tracking story." By far and wide, my best stories come from the people I teach.
Yeah.
I got a couple cool guy stories, here and there, but by far, I'll have people come back at me and like, "Hey, man, ABC happened," and sometimes it's small, innocuous things like a guy in Hawaii. It's not small. It's not innocuous.
It's the small thing that stops the big thing. If it
And guy ended up, I teach tracking on the side, ground sign awareness, and I taught
What?
this. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, you didn't know this?
Yo, we gotta talk about this.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Like urban stuff?
Suburban, that's what I was doing in that mall. I did a half and half day profiling, half day tracking.
Awesome.
So hybrid. But he wouldn't learn from me, and he goes to Hawaii, and he's walking one day, and he's on a hike, and long story short, a lady lost her husband. He'd walked away. He would use the ground sign awareness to track this guy over a few kilometers.
Oh, this is a legit
track line. And it starts raining. Long story short, he finds the guy where he slipped off.
Wow.
And went down a ravine, and he got stuck. And the water, he got stuck under like a log or something. Long story short, the water was up to his neck when he found him.
Really?
And it was just getting bigger, and he tracked him down and pulled him out. So for me,
that's huge.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's like, he didn't go track down Bin Laden. He didn't go do some crazy secret squirrel. He just found some old dude in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I was so stoked. I was like, that is so cool,
Jeez, that guy's like guardian angel for the day.
All the way up until where I've had, when I was still doing combat hunter, where I'd had a 3-7.
Yeah.
3rd Battalion, 7th Marines.
Right.
COC actually called me from Afghanistan. We trained the crap out of them. They deployed, and they had a really, really cool story. I don't want to get into it, but long story short, they said, not me, they said without the training that they received, they would have had a mass casualty. They would have had a whole squad either dead or dying because of a situation they got into. But we're able to slow down, what I call tactical cunning.
Okay.
Slow down a little bit and go, okay, I can do all this stuff. I can do all this kinetic stuff.
Yeah.
Do I have to? Can I slow it down for a second? And you're not waiting for the bad guy or to do something. You're just slowing down your decision, going, wait a minute, take it all in. And this young Marine did that and said, you know what, we're not going there, we're going there. And it was a courtyard, it was an abandoned courtyard. That decision right there, because he based on some things he profiled, said, instead of going there, we're going to go there. Actually got in a fight with a lieutenant over it. And so they deviated, they went to the other place, and they brought out combat engineers who wanted the whole thing, and they found 14 IEDs in the inner courtyard.
Yep. It did happen to guys over there. That courtyard was a dangerous thing.
5th Marines got it really bad. I think they lost 12 dudes in one incident. Yeah. So that one, that's the kind of
right when I was over there.
Yep.
That happened then.
So that kind of one sends chills up my
Yeah, no, me too, man. He's like, My limbic system right
Yeah,
now
yeah. Shake
moving
off.
me around a little bit.
Don't
man.
beat up the air.
Yeah. Get triggered.
Freak out on me.
Right? No, that's awesome. Are there any like small things that guys can take away, like that they can do in like their everyday life to kind of build on situational awareness?
Yeah, mental preparation. So not only understanding the observable indicators, so
Yeah.
not understanding, coming to my training, listing out all the different behavioral indicators. So that's stage
Get the
one.
information.
Get the information.
Brain box, yeah.
Yeah, most people don't know that they need this information until they get it. It's
Right.
not common. It's not rocket science, but it's not common knowledge.
Yeah.
But once someone tells you, it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
you never forget it.
I've been doing this since I was little, but now I understand.
Now it's
about what
conscious,
I'm doing,
yeah.
And I can really leverage it.
So there's that side of it, but the other side is taking what you learned and being mentally prepared. So that's another disconnect. And I even tell a story in my training about how I got in a gunfight, a pretty bad one. It was my third tour in Iraq. I thought I was Johnny
Guns
be
over.
good, you know. It was a security detail.
Yeah.
So we called it the milk run. It was
Okay.
nothing, you know.
So the guards are down.
Guards
we're
are
going
down.
on a milk run, you know.
We'd go to, Burger King and El Asad, you know. It was
I almost beat a dude up at Burger King.
Yeah, we're good.
Anyways, it's a long story short. Someday.
Yeah. So I get into a gunfight and I wasn't mentally prepared. I had the file folders. I had been shot at it, been gunfights, had been blown up. I was in the invasion. That was just a free for all.
Yeah.
So I had the perceptual sets.
Yeah.
But I walked out the door that day like whatever. Milk
Running a
run.
different program.
Yep. And I almost got my ass shut up. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
For that situation. So it's not only knowing the knowledge and having the experiences you have. You can be a BAMF today in the EP industry.
Yeah.
You've just been crushing it. Kind of like that saying, "Oh, that's cool. What have you done for me lately?"
Yeah.
Every day of waking up, what could I possibly get into today? What could possibly happen to my client?
Yeah.
Not only that, it's more of a wellness thing too. Mm-hmm. So not only all that stuff to do with work, but stress of an EP life or military and law enforcement.
Yeah.
Talking about being deliberate about getting up and driving in your car in the morning. Being distracted. Being mindful of what you're doing. So often we run out of the house. You got the coffee, you're half dressing right there, and then you have an accident.
Yeah.
So there's another component of wellness here. So mentally prepare for those kinetic events, but being deliberate, mentally preparing yourself throughout the day is going to help you be successful no matter what you do.
Yeah. And like I've said a number of different times, man, like any of these jobs, like law enforcement, military, executive protection even, and I got this from my buddy Charles, who will have one here too. Mm-hmm. Every time you leave the house, you write a blank check. Mm-hmm. Really, every time any one of us leaves the house, every time your eyes wake up, you open up, you're lucky. But like, you're writing a blank check going to that job, and approaching it that way, I think brings you to a level of consciousness that will make you more effective if you can step into that reality. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that I think I survived as long as I did on my first detail, which was a pretty big, intense detail, was every single day I was like, this is my last day. This is my last day. Mm-hmm. Like, I can get fired today. Like, because guys are getting fired every single day. Yep. And like, I remember since then I approach the game that way every single time I'm with my client. Hey, this could be my last day. I can get fired. I could lose all this. Mm-hmm. And it brings me to a sense of really, it's like kind of what causes PTSD, this hyper awareness that comes from the threat of death or the threat of imminent attack all the time. Your brain, structure changes to deal with this. But like for me, even now when I go to work a client, I can make a mistake, I could humiliate myself, and I could lose my client today. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow this could happen. And off that mindset piece, that's how I stay in the game. Yep. That's how I stay sharp, Yep. So that's good.
Training, doing the training realistically, believing in it, but married with mental preparation. No matter how innocuous you might think it. Yeah. That mental preparation.
Awesome. No, that mental preparation is everything. It's what software you're running, and it's when you're running that software. You know what I mean? Like you said, you were running the wrong wrong software that day.
That's a great. That's a great way to put it. I'm doing. I'm working for another pretty big company right now. Yeah. And they kind of say the same thing. They took my training and modified it a little bit for their travel program. And one of the guys, I'm like, oh man, I'm stealing that. He talked about the background app running.
So that's what's up.
So you have all these skills as an EP person, military, or whatever.
Yeah.
You have these, some of them are hard skills, and learn how to shoot, learn how to wrestle, whatever it is, verbal judo.
Yeah.
But then the software, and you might not employ all those tactics at any given moment. But the one app I want you running in the background is your situational awareness and behavior profiling, understanding that. Always have that app running in the background, running it through that filter. So that's a concept they came up with. I was like,
good,
I'm stealing that bad boy.
Heck yeah. No, that's awesome. Okay, so I mean that's a pretty wide breaststroke. Is there anything else you want to contribute or touch on with regards to this stuff before we wrap it up?
No, this is a great Q&A.
We got to see what the evidence.
Oh yeah, we can ask for that too. Yeah.
You guys got any questions out there? You guys got any questions out there that we can run through real quick?
Trust me, I'm going to be, very soon I'll be charging a lot of mone for this. So
yeah, that's the truth.
Get it for free.
I got to get. I'm glad I know you.
Mind if I do a shout out? Ruben?
Yeah, dude. Shout out, plug, shameless plug. Where can we find
Shameless
you?
plug, yeah. So I'm revamping the website, Instagram. You've probably been missing me. I get it, but I've been revamping some things. So if you go to www.emergencedisrupt.com, I'm sure it'll probably be in the show notes. That's my website. You can receive online training. And again, just keep a lookout on the website. I'm still revamping, but I'll just tell you this, things I've been charging for previously, I'm going to be offering up for free. Okay, so
free's the key.
Yeah,
free's the key.
a lot of content, a lot of guides, and it's for a reason. But I've been charging it the first kind of the introductory part for first people. So I'll put a blast out on my Instagram and I'll shoot it to Byron too. But be on the lookout because I'm offering free resources. So get on that website and I'll be slowly adding as soon as I deliver a new product. I'll put it on there, deliver, kind of leaking it out as the year goes along.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's good stuff, man. I feel like in this game I've seen a lot of tough guys, and I feel like they're a dime a dozen. But the warrior that can think, the warrior that understands the difference between strength and power, physical strength and actual power, intellectual power, controlling the room, controlling all the human dynamics, controlling the situation, controlling where the battlefield's fought, and saying all that Sun Tzu stuff, all of it, that's power, that's controlling the pieces on the board versus physical strength. I think those are the guys that really last in this game, and I really feel like your brand and what you're doing is contributing heavily to helping people become more powerful, helping people understand their battlefield, their battle space, how to be efficient, how to be effective in that battle space. And I just want to commend you and honor you for that, man.
I appreciate you bringing me on and giving the talk. And General Mattis said the most important 6 inches on the battlefield is right between your ears.
That's true. He gets it.
Yeah, it's a little bit hardcore. I usually say it for my military people, but human beings are predators. Not only are you a predator, but you're an apex predator. There's nothing higher on the food chain than you right now. So if you believe that, or if you know that to be true, hey, let's start acting like one. Okay, not necessarily the bad predatory way, like a criminal predator, but head up, eyes up, always thinking, trying to get in the mind of your bad person, your enemy, and always trying to outthink them in a smart way. Okay, in a smart way, because those are the ones who last.
Yeah, that's the truth. All right, good stuff. Hey, thanks for joining us, you guys. Stand by for the podcast. It's going to be launching here around Halloween, around my birthday. We're getting a bunch of awesome episodes compiled, and I'm excited, man. We got some good practitioners of private security and industry professionals and people who have a lot to contribute, like my man here. Just to really, the goal is to contribute to the industry and to create a higher quality security professional, bring a lot of honor back to the industry, because you're putting your life on the line for folks out there, and I want people to understand, and then really respect what we do the way we do, so the way I know some of the guys do. So it's this type of job. Like I say, it's not a job. Private security is not just a job. Anything that you're doing that could require a life, I think also requires a lifestyle, to be able to like to
I love
be
it.
able to
That's
do
great.
it, man. Like to really be able to do it, you know. So
I like
that's where I'm at. And stand by for some shout outs to our sponsors, the guys that, you know, make this possible and take care of us too as a podcast. And also we have a Patreon account now for the podcast. You're an artist. Patreon is an awesome resource that helps us make all this possible. I'm gonna give you guys check out our Patreon account at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. We're finishing it up, finishing the website up. All this stuff will be up soon, but check out our Patreon account. It is the best way to support us with the podcast once I get that stuff up. So until the next podcast.